Hi, we're back with demo exams for traveling and tourism, so stay tuned. Okay, so today I've brought you two exams. They're both about traveling and tourism. Oops. And let's go through them. So first part is the introduction, which is always the same. And then it's about the positive impacts of mass tourism. And the situation is you are a promoter for all-inclusive holidays and city hopper tours. You have been asked to hold a seminar for interested persons, the examiners, on mass tourism in our modern world. Your task is you give a brief presentation to the audience about mass tourism. You talk about a definition of mass tourism. What is it? The development of mass tourism in recent years. And then the positive impacts of mass tourism. And then afterwards, in task 2, we're going to talk about new trends in tourism. After your talk, you open the discussion up to questions about mass tourism and new trends in traveling from your audience. Use the information from the attached text, slow tourism, the new European trend that's giving holidays a break, as well as your own ideas during the conversation. And then that's the follow-up discussion afterwards, and here is the link we're going to put up on YouTube after the stream. Okay, so last week we talked about signposting, and that's what we're going to focus on today. So we're going to see how Timna does with signposting. Okay, if you're ready.
Yes. Hello.
Okay.
Hello, everybody. Welcome.
Okay, so you have chosen the topic tourism and traveling.
Yes.
Yes. And before we get into the topic, would you like or could you introduce yourself to us?
Of course. So my name is Timna and I am a beautician, actually.
You are a beautician.
Yes.
Very interesting.
Yes.
And so what is your regular work day like as a beautician?
Well, I work at a hotel with a kind of wellness and spa, a big spa. And so there's usually my days are very different. So sometimes I have lots of things to do, sometimes I don't, depending on how many people want to get beauty treatments. So I always have to kind of adapt myself to my schedule and look at what I'm doing for the whole day. And so it's always very different.
So that sounds very exciting.
Yes.
Like no day is like the other. And when you think about your future, what or where do you see yourself in maybe 5 to 10 years?
Well, so my next on my plan, my next thing to do would be to maybe be the chief of our staff for our beauty team. There's a kind of a reception where usually the chief or also the receptionists for the spa work, and that's where I'd like to progress to, or maybe do that as well as my job right now. So that's where I'm heading to currently, and then after that we'll see.
Okay, so you work in a hotel. Do you have a lot of tourists in your place?
Yes, we do have a lot of tourists, especially because this hotel is in a ski region. So there's lots and lots of tourists that come here to ski, and then after a long day of skiing, they usually like to relax in the spa, get their nails done, get some beauty treatments, massages, and so on and so forth.
Okay, so you're very confident with tourists then. So maybe
Yes.
Let's start with task 1 whenever you're ready.
Of course. So today I am here to talk to you about mass tourism, which is a word that doesn't sound very nice. But actually it's not that bad. So mass tourism is usually when a group of people have kind of the same plan for their holiday, or there's these big hotels that offer a wide range of activities and food and spa and all of those things all in one place. And that's where large groups of people go to all have kind of the same holiday, which can sound not very appealing to some people, but actually it can also be quite nice because you're kind of in your own safety net, and you're in this hotel complex where you can do everything you want to, you get everything, everyone helps you, or you always can get help when you want to, and that's really something that can be very, very convenient for a lot of people, especially for families with children who don't really want to embark on a whole new adventure where maybe something could happen to their kids. And this whole topic of mass tourism has been developing for a few years now and has been getting more and more popular. Because it's just very convenient, especially if you go to countries quite far away where you don't really know the culture, you don't really know, what's going on. It can be quite nice to at least have somebody there with you who can guide you, who can tell you what to do and where to go, and that's also in that whole mass tourism thing. So there's actually lots of positive impacts of mass tourism, as you can see. As I already said, it can be quite safe. What's also a part of mass tourism is when you, for example, go on a holiday with a group. So you have your tour leader, and he can tell you information about the country you're going to, about the people, about what kind of food is good, and just whatever's important for your holiday. And that's kind of my view on mass tourism. Do you have any questions?
Well, first I want to thank you for this very interesting talk. And I would like to know, do you see new trends in tourism that maybe move away from this mass tourism as we know it?
Yes, very recently there is again this trend to going on holiday or traveling alone, or just in a small group and kind of developing your own plan and your own activities. So there's that as well, because that way you can really kind of experience a country and the culture without kind of this whole touristy interruption, I guess.
Okay, and do you think that the usual hotels do have to change their concepts so they can go with a new trend, or what do you think?
I feel like this whole mass tourism concept is still going strong. So I think that some hotels do need to still kind of cater to that, but then there also need to be hotels that also cater for slow tourism. So maybe smaller bed and breakfasts that have local people running it, so that they can also talk to the guests and tell them what's going on and so on. So I do think that there has to be a bit of a change.
Okay, and have you heard about the trend, what they call slow tourism?
I have, yes. So slow tourism is basically quite the opposite of mass tourism, really, where you kind of go out into the world on your own and take everything in and take your time to do that, and to really immerse yourself in a new culture and try new food and really get in there with the locals. And I think that's really nice, right?
Yes, it is. And I'm a big fan of slow tourism. Haven't been on a very slow touristic tour yet, but I'm planning on it. But thank you for task 2. And let's go a bit more into the follow-up discussion. And you as a person, are you a big fan of mass tourism? Would you say that's my thing? I like all-inclusive holidays.
Well, as a promoter for all-inclusive holidays,
Sorry, but in the follow-up.
Oh, am I?
Yes.
Am I going
sorry.
out of? Okay, sorry.
Yes. You as Timna.
I'm a bit confused today. I'm
That's
sorry.
okay.
So me as Timna,
Yes.
I do quite like the whole slow tourism concept, because I kind of like to have my own plan and do my own things, because I'm bit of a I have to plan everything myself and know where I'm going and what I'm doing and what I don't want to do and what I do want to do. So that's why I actually do like slow tourism.
And what do you think about slow tourism? It's that you go in the smaller cities, and also that you don't or meet the locals, and they cook for you, and you they might not speak your language, and it's very adventurous. Where would you like to go, maybe, or where would there be areas where you say, oh, I don't know?
Well, it's quite hard, because the areas that are really interesting can also be maybe a bit more kind of not dangerous, but unknown to you. For example, like maybe Asia. Well, there's a big part of Asia, so all the kind of different countries in Asia, or maybe even Latin America, or even Antarctica. Who knows? Iceland. So those are the kind of countries that you would really like to go to yourself, but then again, you really have to prepare and have to think about, okay, what am I going to do there, and am I going to have problems because of language barriers, because of cultural differences? So it's quite a hard thing to think about. How about you?
Well, I would love to go to Latin America, but I think, or I do have the feeling that I should speak Spanish then, and I'm not able to, and that's what's holding me back.
Maybe you should learn to speak Spanish.
But it's so hard learning languages.
Oh.
So I don't know. Okay, one last question. Yeah. What was the most adventurous trip you ever took?
The most adventurous? I have to say, maybe once I went on a round trip to Asia. So I went from Thailand to Laos and to Cambodia, and then back to Thailand, but that was with a group. So we were a group of young people, and it was organized by an organization who does kind of those kinds of travels for young people. So it was quite adventurous, but then again, we were guided and we knew where to go and what to do. So yeah, I don't know if you would consider that very adventurous, but hey.
I think it is very adventurous. Thank you for the exam.
Thank you.
Yes, and that's the end of it.
Okay.
Somehow my notes just vanished, but I think I remember everything I wrote down. Okay, so well, the introduction was very nice, very comfortable to talk to Timna. Nothing else here. Then she took over the role as promoter very well. She was very positive about the whole mass tourism thing. So she never doubted that there was any negative, but she also, on the other hand, mentioned that some people think that there are negative aspects to mass tourism. So very wisely done. Then with respect to last week with the signposting thing, Timna started her talk with today I'm here to talk about, and that was one signpost phrase I gave you last week. She went on and did signpost in between her talk to say let's get back to that point, or to say, as I've said before. So she she did not she structured her talk verbally. Okay, and then, one last thing or two last things. For every point, she had very good examples and a very good explanation why this development changed something or what the positive impact is for different types of people. So that was very well done. Then in the second task, we talked about slow tourism and new trends. She stuck to her role very nicely and said that there are new trends, but that the old mass tourism standards don't have to vanish just because of new trends. And then we had a little confusion with the follow-up discussion, but that's not actually too bad, because I told her Timna still thought that she had to stick to her role. I just said you can be yourself, and then that was it. And then she answered as Timna, and it's really not a big deal. So if that happens in your exam, and the examiner will remind you, and then that's it. The important thing is that you can change from your role back to your person. And then we had a nice conversation about tourism and traveling and about your own experience or Timna's experience. And it was a very nice exam, very eloquent. She never had to search for words or couldn't answer a question, so well done. And because it was that good, we're going to do a second one, right?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, you don't need me.
Okay.
Nobody needs me.
That's not true. Okay, introduction is the same. And then we're going to talk about the history of traveling. So you're a history teacher in a secondary school and an expert in the field of traveling. You have been asked to give a talk in a Tyrol City Council meeting about the topic of tourism and traveling. And then you're going to talk about... There's somebody standing behind the camera, yeah? That's why I'm a bit distracted right here. Goodbye. So you're going to talk about the beginning of tourism and traveling. Like, how did people think that was a good idea? And then different reasons why people started to traveling.
Yeah, I wasn't sure about that either.
Okay, so... Let's cross that out. Started traveling. Okay. Hang on a second. Here, let's cross that out. Perfect. And how traveling has changed in the last decades. Then, after your talk, you open the discussion up to questions about traveling and impacts on Austria from your audience. Use the information from the attached text. Climate change, mass tourism threatens Alps, as well as your own ideas during the conversation. And then again, it's the follow-up discussion at the end. Okay.
Okay. Here I am. I'm back again.
Oh, yes. Okie dokie. Sorry.
That's okay.
Okay. So, hello Timna.
Hello.
Welcome to your English Matura exam.
Thank you.
So you've chosen the topic tourism and traveling.
Yes.
With the aspect tourism in Austria.
Mm-hmm.
And before we start, could you just tell us something about your profession?
Of course. So my name is Timna and I am a butcher. So I work with my dad in his butcher shop.
Wow. I've never had a female candidate, who said she is a butcher.
Yes.
So please tell me how you came to the idea to become a butcher.
Well, it's quite simple. My whole family is a line of butchers. So my dad was a butcher, his dad was a butcher, and so on and so forth. So we already have this whole tradition of butchering. And that's why I really like the profession, and I like what I have to do, and I like selling things to my clients, and talking to them, and that's why I decided to also become a butcher like my dad.
Okay, and so since you work in a family-run business, do you plan on taking over the business at some point?
Exactly, and that's why I also want to do my A-levels, because maybe at some point I would like to do some university courses about economy and running a business, and because I want to take over my dad's business. So yeah.
Okay, that's very interesting. And maybe one more thing.
Yes.
Yes. So do you ever have troubles with dealing with dead meat?
Not really, no, because I kind of, from a very low age, I got used to seeing dead animals and seeing the meat, and that's really not a problem for me.
Okay.
But I can understand that some people do have a problem with that.
Okay. Very interesting. Really impressed. Okay. So, whenever you're ready, please be the history teacher.
Okay. So, hello everybody. Today I'm going to talk to you about traveling and tourism. I'm sure you all have wondered how tourism actually started, so how it began. And that's what I want to tell you first. So tourism really isn't a concept that is very old. People only started to kind of travel and be tourists when they had a bit more money. So when there were more jobs and the world was kind of prospering, people started to think, oh, now I have a bit of time. And also when there were way more machines to do the work, to make people's work easier, they had more time to go on holiday. So they thought, oh, maybe now I have time and money, I think I want to go somewhere and see something. So they usually would go to the seaside because there's fresh air there, and they want to kind of escape their normal lives and catch a bit of that salty sea air.
Okay.
And that's how tourism and traveling really began. So other reasons why people started traveling would of course be to visit family. So as families started to live more far apart, because there was better transportation and so on, and there was jobs in different cities, families started to break up because of break up for living in different I don't know what I'm saying. Okay, let me just breathe and start over. So people started to move away because of jobs and opportunities and marriages, and that's why families couldn't see each other more often. And that's also one kind of part of traveling. So you travel to another city, country, region to visit family, for example, or as I said, just to relax, to see something else, to even to go on an adventure, to do some sports. There's lots of different reasons why people wanted to travel all of a sudden. And then in the last few decades, traveling changed quite a lot. So with transportation getting better and better, with there being airplanes available for the general public to use, kind of, traveling got more easier and easier, and other countries got more accessible, and you could travel bigger distances. And actually also the whole concept of mass tourism was getting more and more popular, so everything was organized in a bigger scheme, and that's really where we're going right now. So do you have any questions about that?
Well, Thank you for that very interesting talk and all these new facts I didn't know before. But since I'm from Austria, I would really like to know, do you see any threats for Austria because so many people travel here?
I don't think so, because there's also... Do you mean because many people are coming here? Or?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I don't think so, because Austria kind of knows how to handle tourists, because there have been tourists in Austria for quite a long time. We have quite a history of being a kind of tourism-oriented country, because there's lots of things to see here, things to do, going into the mountains to ski, to in the summer or in the winter to look at the cities. There's lots of things to see and do and experience here, so there's lots of people coming here, and that's a good thing, because we know how to manage that, and we know how to get across our culture and our heritage in a way that will make a lasting impression, and that will not harm the country in itself.
Okay, so now you've talked about the Austrian society, and that you think they are not threatened by all these cultures, like traveling through or maybe even staying. And what do you think about the environment, nature? Do you think there is something that could be threatened, or?
Yes, that's a whole different kind of topic. So the environment definitely could be in danger, because of there's so many people coming here and going into nature and experiencing nature, which is great, but then also many people don't really know how to treat nature right, so they kind of harm it. And that's where we Austrians need to be very pay a lot of attention to what people are doing, and how to make sure to reduce the harm that's being done to our beautiful Austrian countryside and nature, right?
Yes, it's a very interesting thought that the Austrian people can really save their own environment. Yes, and but when it comes to let's say nature and environment are threatened more and more, what do you think is more important, that the economy, which is very dependent on tourism, needs to stay up, or that your heritage, the Austrian environment, is saved? What would you say then?
I believe there needs to be like a healthy balance between the two, because without nature there won't be, or will be, much less tourism, because tourists do come here a lot to see nature or to experience nature. And also without tourism we won't have any money to live, or to look after nature even. So there has to be a healthy balance, I feel like.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's move on to the follow-up discussion, Timna.
Yes.
And then, what do you think about all these tourists in Innsbruck, especially? Are you happy about them? Do you think they are important to Innsbruck and Tyrol, or what do you think about them?
I do think especially Tyrol has a very important kind of whole tourism industry, and personally I never really thought about, there's so many tourists in Innsbruck, they really annoy me, or they were just always there, so I kind of was used to them, and they don't really get on my nerves, or I'm not really bothered by them. I just let them visit our beautiful city, because it's really very, very gorgeous. You have to admit, sometimes when I walk through the city and I look at the mountains, I think, it's really nice here, and I can understand how tourists want to come, so I'm not bothered by them. Are you?
No, not really, but I mean, I came here as a tourist myself in the beginning, so no, I find it very funny that there's so many Asian people here.
True. Yes.
And that the stereotype with the cameras
It's quite
really,
true.
yeah, proves
Well,
itself like over and over again. Do you think Austria is a very friendly country for any tourist?
I do think so, yes. I feel like, or I'd like to think that we're quite open to tourists, and we like to, you know, share our culture and our food, and like to welcome tourists. Or
Okay.
What's your view on that?
No, I do think, or I have experienced Austria as very, very friendly. Yeah, I sometimes think that people from like Arab countries are not as welcome, but I think that's a general European problem.
Yes.
What do you think?
I think so too. I feel like that's a general European problem. I don't know really why, but for some reason people don't really like Arabic people, and I think we need to change that, because that's not a good characteristic to have.
No,
Right.
and I also would like to live in a world or in a continent, in a country, in a city, in a town, where everyone is welcomed like equally.
Yes. It doesn't matter where you come from.
No.
Yeah.
Have you ever experienced a situation as a tourist where you felt not welcome because you're a tourist?
Not really, no. I can't think of one. Have you?
Yes, I have experienced.
Really?
Yes, when I was in
Where?
Morocco.
Oh, wow.
And then I was very blonde at that time.
Okay.
And I was with
I
a
see.
friend, and we were two girls, like traveling alone. And I had some situations where I felt that people were not quite okay with our Western lifestyle.
Okay.
And, yes, and I was wondering whether I disrespected them by just being there on alone, not. I mean, I was covered, and my shoulders were covered, but then, yeah. Do you think that's a very big problem with like the different civilizations, that you disrespect people not by intention?
Yeah, I guess since there are especially Arab and kind of European culture are so different, it can be quite easy to you know, not or make somebody not feel welcome because they're doing something, and you feel like, or you think like, what are they doing? That's not normal. That's not how we do it.
Yes.
But they don't really know how to do it otherwise, because that's how they do it in their country. So I think we should try to be more open-minded and think, oh hey, this person is coming from a different culture, so maybe that's how they do it in this culture. Maybe I should talk to them and find it out. And also that same thing goes for other countries all around the world, actually.
That's a very nice closing remark.
Perfect.
So that's the end of your exam.
Thank you.
You seem very relieved. Then let's go through the exam again. So, I mean, basically, introduction, we don't have to talk about that because it was like fine all the way through. Then the history teacher situation, Timna began very well with clearing up and starting with a point why people started traveling, because their lifestyle changed and so on. So very eloquently again, and it made sense like all the way through. Then she had a short confusion there in the talk, but I mean, every speaker can have that. So if that happens to you, then just say so, because you would do that if you spoke in front of so many people. You would say, okay, stop, I need a minute, I forgot how to change my sentence, let me start again, something like that, because that's a very normal situation. Don't hesitate or panic just because it's an exam. Yeah, you are on the roll, you give a talk in a very in front of a very big audience, so you can breathe and you can say, stop, I'm going to do it again. And then that's fine, because then she found her red herring again and went through with her last points, and everything was fine. So just because you can't finish one single sentence, it's going to break your neck, okay? Don't panic if that happens. Maybe have that in mind, and before have some strategies. Did we stream about that actually before?
Sure.
But have some strategies, some sentence phrases that you can then use, okay, and that you feel safe with. Okay, then the discussion about masters and the Alps was very nice, because Timna was very neutral in her tone, because she was the history teacher that has a lot of experience. So no, not like in the exam before, like very positive and only positive. She really like went forward and back and explained everything. So very nicely did she stick to her role. And then the follow-up discussion, again, good points, very well explained her answers. She had a very broad range of vocabulary, of sentence structure, and she always had an example and an explanation for her statements, for her points she made. So again, a very comfortable, nice exam. Yes. So, and if you do have any questions about these two exams, just send a comment or leave a comment in the chat or on the website. But if nothing else is up, then I'm going to say goodbye until next week, and then we're going to talk about, remember?
I don't remember.
Okay, we're going to
we'll
surprise
see next
you.
week, yes.
Okay, so then see you next week then.